Good afternoon. Welcome to the June 9th policy meeting of the Phoenix City Council. I will now call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us on this important day as we talk about many topics, including our battle against COVID-19. We will begin with council information and follow-up requests. I want to thank Chief Williams, who has been listening to our community. Today, she announced that the City of Phoenix Police Department will no longer use the carotid artery control technique. Thank you, Chief, for listening to our community, and we appreciate your leadership. We also just received wonderful news from the Housing and Urban Development Department. The City of Phoenix will receive an additional $19 million to help us fight homelessness. So, good news, the need has never been greater. This council unanimously approved a plan to fight homelessness, and we appreciate the partnership of the federal government in helping us address this important community concern. Council member updates. Councilwoman Pastor.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I would just like to congratulate a team of young high school students, or actually seniors that graduated, that have been doing great work in District 4. They have been providing information on the census and also on all our small business loans, our micro loans. They have been working in the community and providing information on what the city is offering and how restaurants and businesses can get assistance. In addition to that, I want to thank them for also being part of a refugee food drive, and they have been participating in the food drives and packing boxes and giving food out to refugees community. So I really want to thank my D4 seniors for doing some of the great work and getting information out from the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yeah, I guess I'll go.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, I just want to inform everyone that we have some COVID testing right there in Maryville, right at 65th Avenue and Virginia. That's at our Desert West Community Center. We have a pop-up COVID testing going on this Saturday. So it doesn't matter if you have insurance, no insurance, it's free. So come on down. This is a program that the City of Phoenix has worked with many different partners to make sure that our communities are tested, especially out in the Maryville area. We noticed that there wasn't that many testing going on. So we want to make sure that it's available. So it's free for the community. It's from 8 in the morning till 12 noon. It's right there on 67th Avenue and right off of Virginia at the Desert West Community Center. So come on down. And the other thing is, it's the Office of Art and Culture has released a guideline on how to apply for the art, arts individuals for their relief on their programs and all that. We've heard out there that there's many art groups that are starving and hurting right now, and we want to make sure that they have that revenue to continue with their arts program, especially the ones that are doing it through social media and all that. So thank you all. And remember, you got to apply before it opens on June 10th, and it'll be open for 24 hours. So you need to watch it very closely. That's June 10th, and it's open for 24 hours. So get your applications ready and be ready to apply. Also, thank you, Mary, for announcing that great news about the police chief, that she just announced that we're going to do the carotid control technique is not going to be effective anymore in the city of Phoenix. So that's some good news, and just want to thank everyone who is working hard to make sure that our police officers are doing the right thing and they're getting the proper training, and thank the council members for all their hard work and making everything possible. And I also want to thank all those individuals that went out yesterday. I know that the mayor was out there with the police chief, myself, and all the different community spiritual leaders. And we were at the police station. We were praying for hope. We were praying for, the continuing the love and unity among our community, and thanking all the young people for what they're doing right now in educating not just the city of Phoenix, but the whole world on the needs of taking care of Black Lives Matter movement. And then also we want to thank all those leaders that went out there and prayed, because you can pray at home, but when you put it into action, it's a whole different thing. So thank you, Mayor, for being out there. Thank you for your support, not just for the religious leaders, but all leaders out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. I want to congratulate Councilmember Garcia and our Vice Mayor for marking their 1-year anniversary of service. What a year it has been. I can't think of a busier time period in the city, but congratulations to both of you on this milestone. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a year. There's just been a lot going on, and we've been very busy with policy, but definitely with trying to figure out how do we give back to our community, how do we give back to the district. And one of the biggest accomplishments, and it was the first meeting that I did the first day that I came into office, was with Jeff Spellman, when we were talking about the 27th Avenue corridor and what is it that we could do with that facility over at the Kmart at Northern and the I-17. And I'm very happy to say, thanks to Chris Mackey and a lot of other leaders, people that have been involved have been NAU, Maricopa Community Colleges, Glendale High School, Westmac, Washington, ESD, and tons of other people that came together. And we are going to have our very first meeting tonight with different community leaders and different constituents to talk about what is it that we're going to do with the Kmart facility. And we're excited to see what's going to happen with that. It's definitely going to be a huge landmark for that part of the district as we continue to redevelop that part of our district. So I am incredibly excited about that. I also want to thank St. Mary's Food Bank, the Milwaukee Brewers, and Case for doing the food bank at the Maryville Stadium. I know that we served a lot of people on that day, and just thanking everyone for the food banks and everything that has happened in the last couple of months. I'm very thankful to see everyone coming together and trying for us to work together on how is it that we can continue to feed our families and making sure that we're able to bring people together in these unprecedented times. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Mayor,
Councilmember Garcia.
thank you, and thank you. It's felt like 10 years, not like 1 year. There's a pre-COVID and post-COVID now. I wanted to ask a little bit around what's happening with the protest, and this, I guess, is to the police department or to Ed. If we could get numbers of what it's cost over the last week, and also how we're determining what roads are closed or open, how long that's going to be. And then more specifically, we continue to get calls from the Garfield neighborhood of what happened a couple of nights at the beginning of the protest. And I just want to figure out if we can get a briefing or something on what happened in Garfield, particularly with people arrested in their own homes who said they were just out there. And so just kind of wanting to get a sense of what's happened, what we have spent over the last week or so, and what our plans moving forward when it comes to road closures or the protests moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I sometimes feel as if every day during COVID is 3 times as busy as before COVID. So it does seem the days have been packed and long. Any additional Councilmember updates? If no additional council members have updates, I will turn to our city clerk and see if we can do a roll call. I understand we do not have a call for executive session today. City clerk?
That's correct, Mayor. There is no call for executive session today. So I'll call the roll. Councilman DeCiccio? Councilmember Garcia?
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski?
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor?
Here.
Councilwoman Stark?
Here.
Councilman Waring?
Here.
Councilwoman Williams? Councilwoman Williams. Vice Mayor Guardado.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. And Councilwoman Williams, I see just unmuted, so. Thank you.
You
So
sound good. Thank you.
Thank you.
wonderful. So we have all council members with us here today except for Councilman DeCiccio, unable to join us. City Manager, do you have any updates for us before we move to COVID-19?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. And as you and Councilman Nowakowski noted, Chief Jerry Williams today did announce that she is suspending the use of the police, by the police department, of the carotid hold technique, and that will be ceased immediately. We, as Councilman Nowakowski mentioned, we have community COVID testing at Desert West Park this weekend. We encourage people to take advantage of that. You noted that we got a special allocation of emergency shelter grant funding that will aid us in dealing with homelessness as a result of COVID-19. We'd also let the public know and encourage them that City Hall is open by appointment. We continue to serve many, many people through appointment system at City Hall, again, to maintain safe distancing for the public and our staff. We do ask people to make appointments, and that has been going very well. That is going to continue through the summer. And our COVID arts grants are open. I know many council members have put that information out to the community. We encourage our local arts organizations and artists to go onto our Phoenix Arts and Culture website to get more information. It's a very short timeline, so we encourage people to apply. Also, just to affirm to Councilmember Garcia, we will prepare a report on the costs that we've incurred addressing demonstrations. Also, a schedule of the roads in downtown opening and closing, as well as an update on Garfield. And so we will put that together and brief council members. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. We have some important relief we will be working on today, and it is all part of our plan in response to COVID-19. I will first begin with our Deputy City Manager, Jeff Barton, who will share with us our strategic plan and introduce today's item.
Mayor, members of the council, good afternoon. And we go back to our slide that we talk about several times throughout the week, our strategic plan for our Coronavirus Relief Fund, or CRF. Again, we've got $293 million that we've been rolling out to the community to impact a variety of different endeavors. So $75 million was allocated to community investment, $75 million for city operations, and $143 million allocated to reserve to be utilized at a later point in time. What we want to talk to you about today, though, is the category of mitigation and care for vulnerable populations, under which we have $10 million. To date, we've already allocated 1.4 of those funds to domestic violence and human trafficking. We've also allocated $3 million to address refugee and asylum seeker assistance for things like utility assistance, as well as other things, which totals $4.4 million. That leaves $5.6 million unspent in this category. And today with me, we've got Deanna Janovich, Assistant City Manager, Marshall Franklin, Human Services Director, and Art Fairbanks, Assistant Public Works Director, who will lay out a plan for you on how we plan to allocate these funds to seniors.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We're pleased to be here today to discuss how we're going to allocate the Corona Relief Funds for seniors and individuals impacted by evictions. Staff will also discuss our efforts around heat relief, including the Heat of the Day Respite Center that we opened up at the Phoenix Convention Center. We are going to talk about our landlord and tenant program, which we are proposing a little over $1.1 million. We'll also be discussing, as I said, our heat relief efforts at a little under $900,000. And then finally, we want to spend some time discussing our seniors and our efforts at our 15 senior centers and what we need to do to prepare eventually for those senior centers and some of the retrofitting that we need to do, as well as some specific heat relief efforts around our senior population. And with that, I'll turn it over to Marshall.
Thank you, Deanna. Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council. COVID-19 has
exacerbated challenges that already existed related to landlord and tenant rights and responsibilities. And so I will start first with those challenges. Specifically, those challenges are the pandemic has increased the inability for individuals to pay rent. Secondly, it has exacerbated the available legal representation at eviction proceedings. And finally, there still is lack of awareness of the Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. To address those challenges, staff proposes to allocate $850,000 to community and legal services for legal assistance and support. These funds would be used to locate community legal service staff attorneys at our Phoenix Justice Court buildings and will be responsible for an array of services, including providing legal representation at eviction proceedings and negotiating on behalf of our clients with landlords. The 9 justice courts located in Phoenix are Arcadia Biltmore, Encanto, Downtown, South Mountain, West McDowell, Desert Ridge, Dreamy Draw, McDowell Mountain, and Moon Valley Justice Courts. Staff also proposes allocating $300,000 to the City of Phoenix Landlord and Tenant Program, which is managed by the Human Services Department. These funds would be used for additional assistance with late payments, fees, security deposits, and supportive services such as bus passes and meal cards. To recap, for the landlord and tenant assistance due to COVID-19, staff proposes $850,000 to community legal services and $300,000 to the City of Phoenix Landlord and Tenant Program for a total of $1.15 million. For heat relief, COVID-19 has substantially impacted annual heat relief programs that have been in place for years, providing cooling locations for those experiencing homelessness when we deal with high temperatures and extreme heat. Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council, you recognize the need to fill this gap, and thanks to your leadership and direction, the City of Phoenix immediately established a day respite center at the Convention Center. As such, staff propose allocating $750,000, which is the cost to operate the City of Phoenix Day Respite Center through the end of July. The center is designed to address appropriate social distancing due to COVID-19 and is open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. The only requirements are for our guests to be registered with the Human Services Campus, and at the Day Respite Center, we provide guests with lunch, dinner, water, snacks, charging stations, and televisions. Also under heat relief, staff proposes allocating $120,000 to St. Vincent de Paul for shade structures and additional staffing at their 3 campuses. Due to COVID-19 and necessary social distancing, congregate meals are being provided both indoors and outdoors, and shade structures will assist with that effort. To recap, for heat relief mitigation for our most vulnerable populations due to COVID-19, staff proposes allocating $750,000 for the operation of the City of Phoenix Day Respite Center and $120,000 to St. Vincent de Paul for shade structures and increased staffing for a total of $870,000. Specific to our—
Director Franklin?
Yes, Mayor.
Could we pause for a moment for a question from Councilmember Waring? Councilmember Waring,
Councilman
Waring. We are.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. But the first part of the presentation about the legal, I think I know kind of what the goal is, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. So I assume nobody gets anything if you're just kicking somebody out in the street. That produces a dangerous situation with COVID and the heat. So I assume the attorneys try to negotiate payment plans that the tenants can meet, or negotiate an acceptable settlement for the landlord and the tenant. Is that sort of the ultimate goal, or did I miss something?
Mayor Gallego and Councilman Waring, as I understand, those are the services that Community Legal Services provide, and yes, that in fact would be the intent in what they would do in terms of representing those that would come for their services. I do believe that the Community and Legal Services has a representative that is called in to speak if appropriate, and are available to answer any additional questions if that's the desire. Councilman Waring.
And this is sort of, Mayor Marcel, this is sort of building on already existing programs. The foundation is already laid. Is that a fair assessment?
Mayor Gallego and Councilman Waring, yes, that is correct.
And I can confirm Sharon Sargent from Community Legal Services is available to answer any questions. I would add that I think there has been considerable need to interpret the governor's executive order on evictions. We received questions in the mayor's office about it as well, and we've actually received questions from constables who have to interpret it as well. And I believe that our residents probably need similar guidance about what it does and does not do. So I think we'll continue with the presentation, but I will go to Sharon first in case council members have any questions and so that she can talk to
Mayor,
us about.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Pastor.
The City of Phoenix Landlord and Tenant Program, what does that program do?
Mayor Gallego and Councilwoman Pastor, it provides supportive services, referrals to community legal services for legal representation. If individuals are in need of assistance, whether it's rental, we provide assistance with that. If we find there also referrals are needed for utility assistance, what we really do is we become a point of contact to refer individuals to services that are provided out in the community for those who are in need of those types of services.
Okay, so if I'm in a situation, I call the landlord-tenant program, and I say I'm having an issue with my landlord. I don't know what, I can't even make, I'm being evicted in 30 days. Not sure why I made a payment, but I was late. I'm just making up the story. What happens at that point? Do the person that I speak with, then what do they do?
Mayor Gallego, Councilman Pastor, what would happen is at the point in time in which an individual is needing legal assistance, interpretation of laws and rules and regulations, our department, the Landlord and Tenant Program staff, would refer typically to community legal services. So those individuals would be referred there. We do not provide any type of legal assistance to individuals.
Okay, so then I call, and then I get referred?
Mayor, members of
That's
the
what I'm
council,
hearing.
Councilwoman Pastor, in addition to the referral to community legal services, the staff is versed on the Landlord-Tenant Act. So if an individual is having issues understanding, for example, the landlord is supposed to fix their air conditioning unit, and the landlord is saying to them, it's not my responsibility, the counselors in Human Services Department can help them navigate through that and point to them in the Landlord-Tenant Act where that is a requirement of the landlord, so that they can go back and advocate on their behalf of the tenant as well. If it gets into, as Marshall said, more legal proceedings, and that's when we would refer to community legal services, help with the legal side of it. But they do what I refer to as some case management with those individuals that are calling in that are needing those types of services.
Yeah, because that's where I guess where I'm going is that, is this a program that helps me, or is this a program that I call and then get referred out? And I'm now bouncing to different organizations. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No, it will serve similar to what we have in our family service centers. So the counselors will provide assistance to the tenants to the point to where it becomes some sort of a legal proceeding and they need to do a referral to community legal services.
Okay, and then Mayor, I have a second question.
Please.
Okay, Mayor, can I go ahead?
Yes, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
In here, it says rental assistance, but then it says bus passes, meal cards. What's that program?
So, Mayor Gallego and Councilman Pastor, what we're endeavoring to do with this particular pool of funds is to provide supportive services. So, for example, if we have an individual who is needing to appear in court as a result of potentially being evicted and doesn't have the ability to get there, we can provide a bus pass which assists them to get to court or to meet with an attorney, as an example. When you talk about individuals, there are times, as Assistant City Manager Deanna Jonovich referred to, where we may have to refer them for some programs regarding need with air conditioning units. And let's say, for example, under the Landlord-Tenant Act, the landlord needs to complete whatever repairs on the air conditioning unit, and an individual may have to be displaced and they need assistance with food. We could provide a food card for them. Really, the goal in the supportive services that we're trying to provide is to minimize the impact that an individual would experience as it relates to issues and situations regarding eviction and or working through any of their rights available to them under the Landlord and Tenant Act.
And again, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the efforts we're putting forth here is really trying to alleviate the eviction prevention and prevent the homelessness, to really keep the people that are already housed staying housed.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out in this whole piece, because I think our great intention with the council is to try to provide that support in order to stay housed. And how I was reading it was, if they weren't housed, then we're now providing bus passes and meal cards, which is fine. I just need some clarity in this.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, members of the council, that's the intent, to give them all the wraparound services they need to stay housed.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward. I think part of that, and where I see that us being able to be helpful, it's kind of like a know your rights, right? It's kind of something where you're letting people know these are your options, this is what's happening, this is your first entry point. So I'm wondering if within this 300,000, or if more is needed, to do more of a public-facing campaign that's information. You know, whether it's social media or just letting people know this is what's gonna happen when the governor pulls this eviction, and these are your options.
Mayor Gallego and Councilmember Garcia, we most definitely can add that into the plan with the existing funds that you're allocating specific to the City of Phoenix Landlord and Tenant Program.
And then, do we have a sense of numbers? I know those are all the courts. Is there already, like, kind of, are landlords already filing evictions and they're just not being moved through, or are evictions not being accepted into the court system? Do we know how that's functioning?
Mayor Gallego and Councilmember Garcia, I am not aware of that specific information. I am not sure if our representative who is on the line from Community Legal Services may be able to address that. We do receive calls into the Human Services Department, as well as receive emails and correspondence that are directed from the mayor and city council with individuals indicating that they've been or have been issued eviction notices, and then we have worked either the landlord and tenant team or referred to Community Legal Services. So I don't know if that would be appropriate for that question to be addressed there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think let's go ahead and continue with the staff presentation, and then again, I will go first to the phones to Sharon. CLS has shared some information that I've been party to, that they have many clients who have been evicted not in accordance with the governor's executive order, so that they have been helping many people understand what the order does. But
Thank you, Mayor Gallego. To continue on, relative to our seniors and our vulnerable homeless population, staff proposes allocating $135,000 to Justice Center for additional shade structure with misting system, as well as additional funds for increased staffing costs. With social distancing due to COVID-19, indoor services such as meals are also being provided outside. Staff also proposes providing $700,000 to the Area Agency on Aging for 2 programs that will target seniors impacted by COVID-19. The first program, known by the High Neighbor Program, will create additional opportunities for social interaction with seniors through scheduled personal, weekly telephonic, and virtual calls. Referrals for this program will come from the Area Agency on Aging's 24-hour senior helpline, social service agencies, family, friends, and healthcare workers. The second program is a Goods to Home program under the Area Agency on Aging. This program is a home delivery program for non-food items such as toiletries, hygiene, and prescriptions, those items that are necessary to promote safe and quality living for seniors who are isolating as a result of COVID-19. And finally, under seniors, since the middle of March, our 15 senior centers have been closed due to COVID-19. Assistant Public Works Director Art Fairbanks will walk through staff's proposed allocation of $2.745 million to our senior centers.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. Good afternoon, Mayor, Phoenix City Council. With regard to facility improvements at the 15 senior centers across the city, I think it's very important to note that in every case and every city facility, we feel a responsibility to do the best we can to make each city facility safe with the science and the resources available to us now. But in the case of senior centers, we feel a special responsibility to use extra diligence to anticipate any potential concerns that may arise from residents given the perceived vulnerabilities as it relates to COVID. And so strategically, our work is set up in three main categories as we move forward. In the first category, it's our intent as we move forward to do a professional evaluation for each site for specific recommendations for addressing this vulnerable group. And so we're going to use professional third-party resources to make sure we leave no stone unturned, to make sure we hit all of the major topics and all the areas that we need to address. And that gives us the opportunity to integrate these best practices and do it right the first time. Another main principle that we're going to be working forward through is to do special facility accommodations. And so this is the meat of the improvements that you'll be seeing at the 15 senior centers. And there's some that you may recognize in Phoenix City Hall and other buildings already, such as the plexiglass, hand sanitizer, and then safety messages at every entrance to both the public and the staff, our residents. But there's also some other things we can do. So there's ways to automate the facility at these senior centers from a touchless perspective, and that would include installing sliding doors, touchless power switches, and touchless bathroom fixtures as well. One more thing that we're going to do as part of our special facility accommodations is to examine the physical environment to make cleanliness the top priority. So here there's an opportunity to replace carpet with tile in some cases, to convert the seating to non-permeable chairs, and also to look at things such as the installation of ultraviolet-C air filters and installing plenums to bring additional outside air into these senior centers. And finally, in terms of special facility accommodations, we want to make sure we make upgrades to meal service equipment at the centers to which it's used. So in places where we can upgrade walk-in refrigerators and meal packaging equipment, we'd like to do that. And also take a look at the kitchen counters and the serving lines at these senior centers as we move forward. And finally, the third principle as we move forward is to make sure we integrate technology. So we understand the Human Service Department has indicated that programming in classes in some cases can now be delivered in new digital formats. And you may notice that more and more services that all of us use every day are now being delivered exclusively through digital means. And so in this case, the installation of computer stations that might allow seniors to access these services if they don't have access to such devices at their house, or an opportunity to do that in a class setting, a senior setting, also provides one more alternative that we can use for the seniors to support that program. In total, the amount is $2.7 million, which works out to about $183,000 per center. And that's given different size centers across the city that vary from 7,700 square feet to over 15,000 square feet. And so in closing, given our focus on the importance of getting this right the first time for our residents, we feel there's sufficient funds available to make these facilities safe in terms of what we're all doing, the appropriate return to use when the time is right. Now I'd like to turn it back to Director Franklin to summarize the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Fairbanks. So to conclude this section of our presentation, COVID-19 Senior Assistance Plan, staff proposes $135,000 to Justice Center, $700,000 to the Area Agency on Aging, and as Assistant Director Fairbanks indicated, $2.745 million for senior center improvements for a total of $3.58 million. To close our presentation, Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council, to address the impact of COVID-19 on vulnerable populations, staff recommends $1.15 million for landlord and tenant services to Community Legal Services in the City of Phoenix Landlord and Tenant Program, $870,000 for heat relief services to St. Vincent de Paul and the City of Phoenix Day Respite Center, and $3.58 million for for seniors to Justice Center, Area Agency on Aging, and City of Phoenix Senior Centers, for a total of $5.6 million in CARES Act COVID-19 funds. This concludes our presentation, Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council, and we welcome any questions that you may have.
Mayor?
Wonderful, thank you. This was a great presentation and really responsive to priorities from the City Council. Council members identified these needs in the community, and our staff met with stakeholders and identified ways to help our most vulnerable invest in our city facilities so that we can do the best we can to serve seniors and others who use the city facilities. We'll go to Councilwoman Pastor, followed by Councilman Nowakowski.
Thank you. I really appreciate all the work that staff has done, in particular with the Justice Center. I want to thank Stacy Champion and Silvana for bringing the Justice Center to the forefront and bringing it to my attention. And so I'm glad that the Justice Center is part of this piece. I have gotten emails from constituents, and I'm going to try to read from my phone what some of the constituents have said. This is a daughter of a senior, and she is asking that there are a number of seniors that live where evaporative coolers are in existence, and as the weather is getting further and further, hotter and hotter, she's asking how the city is contacting or keeping in contact with the seniors that go to the senior centers. Her dad is one of the participants at one of the senior centers, and he has an evaporative cooler, but he goes to her house and has the ability to go to her house, or she picks him up and he's in air conditioned. But he is saying there's a number of seniors that are not in that situation and that they need help. So I'm just going to continue. The other piece is senior taxi services. That's temporarily been postponed because they're not going to the senior centers, but what they have used those for was also possibly to help with doctor's appointments. I don't know the legalities or the liabilities of that, but now that they're not going there, or prior to the pandemic, the centers would take many of the members grocery shopping, etc. So I would like somebody to please let me know. And then I know I heard, that despite offering meals, many seniors may not have other basic essentials such as toilet paper or water because they don't have transportation. Then she's asking if she knows that members go and needing food, that if people could just check on them and do a touch point with them. I'm not sure how the food delivery happens, if they ring the doorbell and they run, or do they ring the doorbell and the door opens and they're 6 feet apart and they say, "How you doing?" I'm not sure. That's what Uber Eats does, but you can, I'm just messing around with that, with Uber Eats, but that's what happens. For members who are not receiving meals, maybe staff should be directed for water-only deliveries. So that sounds like there's some water delivery dynamics. Out of Out of Devonshire's, there's 446 members, but only 90 are receiving meals. So they're asking, or the father's concerned as to what happens to the rest. Do they have any touch points? Do we know what's happening? And then her mother goes to the McDowell Center, and she has just concerns of, she's just saying, the mother will say, seniors will suffer in silence and really won't say anything. And so she's asking if we can just reach out, or at least maybe next time tell us what we're doing and how we're reaching out to seniors, so that then the public knows, or family knows that we are doing what we can to help our seniors. And probably one of the main things is air condition, water delivery, and just a checkup. So.
Mayor Gallego, Councilwoman Pastor, if possible, would like to schedule time to meet with you and share with you what we are doing, as well as receive some of your thoughts on some of the services that we can enhance, as well as respond, if appropriate, to those who reached out to you.
Yeah, I would actually like it to have a public discussion, or be able to deliver it so then the public can hear what is happening across what we're doing for seniors. That way, it's much easier than having one-on-ones, and everybody can know what we're doing. Thank you.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, if I could, I might ask Marshall to talk about what the existing staff is doing to reach out to the seniors, and then how our meal delivery program is working today with the seniors at home.
Right, that would be perfect.
Mayor Gallego, members of the City Council, there are several things that we're doing. First of all, our senior center staff are placing calls at least once a week to members of their respective senior center. For those that we have identified as vulnerable, they are receiving telephone calls twice per week. As it relates to delivery of what were congregate meals to home-delivered meals, we are reaching out the week before to senior center members to determine if they would like meals for the upcoming week. And when those senior center members identify that they would like those meals, we are delivering those meals to them. As it relates to the delivery of the City of Phoenix home-delivered meal programs, our drivers are expected to, when they drop off, obviously ensure that they are appropriately social distancing, but they are also required to do a visual check if they can, and to also check in and ask questions to see if an individual, a senior, is okay, if they make any observations or have any observations of concerns, or if that senior expresses any concerns. It's required under our contract for that driver to report that back to us. As it relates to, let's see if I can go through some of the things, our senior taxi services, that is correct. When we had our senior centers open, we provided taxi services to and from our senior centers as a part of some of the senior center programming, depending upon the needs of a particular senior center, because we rely upon their members really to tell us what they want to do. Yes, there would be field trips, if you will, to the grocery store and those types of places where they had the ability to be able to pick up those types of items. In terms of some of the virtual things that we're doing, some of the senior centers, and it really is dependent upon what our members are telling us they need, are trying to do their best to schedule virtual talks with senior members, virtual coffees and chats, trivia games virtually, and those types of things with our seniors. When our senior center staff are doing those calls and checkups, if we find there are needs that our senior center members have, we're either addressing those best we can or referring or coordinating services for them. So, for example, it would be, if possible, for the senior center member who expressed the concerns around evaporative cooling and those kinds of things, we'd want to get on top of that. So if there's a name of an individual that we can reach out to, then most definitely would like to do that. That's a general overview of what we're doing in our senior services for senior centers.
So I think the gentleman, he obviously attends Devonshire, and so what he was saying, there's 546 members, and out of those 546 members, I'm not sure who has evaporative cooling or AC, but I'm assuming that if they're doing a welfare check, at that moment, whoever's doing the welfare check can say, hey, how's your cooling, or do you have air conditioner, or do you have evaporative cooler? Because then at that moment, we will know who has it or doesn't. I think he, in general, the gentleman that attends Devonshire is saying, look, there's an issue. I have evaporator cooler, but I have the ability to go to my daughter's house. Others don't. So how do we then evaluate maybe who doesn't have the ability to do that, or someone to advocate for them? And how do we then use our navigators to the best of our ability to get information and then say, okay, what do we do? I mean, I guess it's very similar to the homeless situation at the South Hall, because we're trying to get them out of heat and we're doing heat relief. So that's just what I'm just reporting back what a constituent told me.
Mayor Gallego, Councilman Pastor, what we can incorporate into, and I see Susan Hallett's here, who's our Deputy Director of our Community and Senior Services, we can immediately incorporate into that daily checklist that we use when we make a call to ask the question about your cooling system. What type of system do you have? Are there any challenges? And then we can use that to go from there to see if there's some opportunities to be able to address any issues that way. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's why we find out if anybody's really having, they're not going to really tell unless they
Right.
trust you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilman Nowakowski, I believe, was next.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Marshall, if we can go back to that slide, I think it's one of the beginning slides on respite. It's like the third or so.
Councilman Nowakowski, we are pulling, Mayor Gallego, Councilman Nowakowski, we're pulling up the PowerPoint.
Is that it? I can see right here. Over here. They can't see over here. Right here, they can't see you. You can stand right here, they can't see you.
Do you see the second one?
I think it's the one right before that. If you can go back to that one, I'm sorry. Okay, so Marshall, on here it says must be registered with the Human Services Campus. So what happens if you happen to be a homeless individual that's not registered? Are we still accepting those individuals?
Mayor Gallego and Councilman Nowakowski, as we were taking a look at the setup of the Day Respite Center as well as the space that we had available while also managing the social distancing necessary for COVID-19, we made an operational decision that an individual needed to be registered with the Human Services Campus, which allowed us to be able to manage, if you will, the number of individuals who potentially could be seeking heat relief there at the convention center. The other reason why we wanted individuals to be registered with the Human Services Campus is it allows us to also be able to build upon any existing services or case management that the campus may be providing that we can support while they are at our Day Respite Center.
So, Marshall, we're not turning anybody away, right? So if somebody does show up, is there a way to help them register with the Human Service Campus to make sure that we don't have anybody out there on the streets that might not have the means to go down to the Human Service Campus to register at that time, right?
Yes, Mayor Gallego, Councilman Nowakowski, there are two things that are happening. We have dedicated bus pickup locations adjacent to the Human Services Campus where we are picking individuals up. We are checking then to determine if they do have a Human Service Campus identification. If they do not, we are assisting them with going back to the Human Services Campus to register and receive that card. If someone should show up at the convention center and not have a Human Services Campus card, we will facilitate and work with them getting back to the Human Services Campus in order to register and receive a card and be able to come into the respite center.
And then, Marshall, I just want to thank your staff and yourself for all the hard work that you all are putting into cleaning up around the Human Service Campus. The neighbors, the communities are really thankful for all that. They call our office thanking us, but it's really the hard work from your guys' department, Human Services, and and all the different departments of the city of Phoenix to make that happen and to maintain it. It's not just going in there one time and cleaning up, it's actually ongoing. So thank you for all that hard work. Thank you for listening to the message of the mayor and the council members that, homelessness is a top priority. And thank you for all that hard work. Mr. Fairbanks, thank you for looking at all of our facilities and making it accessible to everyone, especially our seniors, and creating all those access with without touching the doors and all that. I think it's going to be something that's very needed. I know that a lot of the seniors are really scared of the COVID-19. And one of the things I keep on hearing from them is, when are we going to come back to our senior centers? We want to get back together with our friends and socialize. But at the same time, we need to make sure that our places are safe once they're able to do that. So thank you, Mr. Fairbanks, for doing that. And once again, thank you, Mary, and the council members for your support on these issues.
Mayor?
Well said, Councilman Nowakowski. I'm sorry, who was that?
Councilwoman Pastor, I have a request.
Please.
For the senior center improvements, I would like a breakdown for each senior center and what the cost is going to be for, I guess it's not remodeling, but what's the term? It is remodeling.
Remodel and retrofit,
Remodeling
yes.
the senior centers. I would like to see the breakdown of it and what we're putting into those senior centers, what changes are being made. Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Stark.
thank you. I too want to thank staff for what they've done, and especially what they're doing with the senior centers. I got a lovely call from one of my seniors who goes to Shadow Mountain, and she said they've been extremely helpful. She's very worried about COVID-19, but she still feels connected because Marshall's staff is going out and they're making those connections. And it really, I got to tell you, it's very special to her. It was just a heartwarming phone call. And so Marshall, Marshall, if you could please work. My constituent's name, Marsha loves you. And please extend my thanks to everyone, because they really are connecting with our seniors who are vulnerable and who want to be connected. Thank you.
Well said. We will go ahead. We have 3 members of the public, all of whom have been really working on these important issues to address the council. We will begin with Sharon from CLS.
Good afternoon.
Jessica Burke. Thank you, Sharon.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego, members of the council. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As indicated, my name is Sharon Surgeon. I'm the Deputy Director at Community Legal Services. CLS is a nonprofit law firm providing legal assistance to Arizonans in 5 counties throughout Arizona, including Maricopa County. And housing law is one of our primary areas of practice. We represent and provide legal assistance to individuals in private landlord-tenant matters, as well as in public and subsidized housing. We have been working as Mayor Gallego indicated, to provide guidance to the public regarding the governor's executive order and the CARES Act, and providing notices, developing notices for tenants to utilize pursuant to both of those. We've also been providing webinars on various topics, including housing, as it relates to COVID-19. And we will, under this program, we will be providing legal assistance to and information to individuals in those 9 justice courts on landlord-tenant matters, in order to ensure that they are properly educated and receive the information necessary. And in response to Councilman Waring's question, legal assistance would consist of legal information and education. It could involve negotiation, and many times does, as well as legal representation in an eviction hearing if deemed appropriate under those circumstances. Tenants rarely have legal counsel because of timeframes and the inability to afford legal counsel, whereas landlords usually do. Programs such as this have been in effect for quite some time.
Mayor?
Should I proceed? I heard the bell.
Yeah, if you want to complete that, and I think council members may have some questions for you as well.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that prior to the pandemic, other states and cities have had such programs, and studies of those programs have indicated that persons going to homeless shelters have been reduced by as much as 30%. So we believe that this program will have an impact on reducing homelessness and maintaining individuals in their homes or being sheltered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do any council members have questions for Sharon?
Mayor?
Councilmember Garcia.
Yeah, thank you so much for your work, and I'm glad we're able to work together. I had a question, if you could expand a little bit on the difference between how that 30% happens, and just talk to us a little bit about what the court looks like and what people are expected to kind of do in representing themselves in those issues. And then the question before I had asked earlier was, do we have any sense or idea of how many people we can expect to be evicted when the eviction notice is lifted, or the moratorium is lifted?
Mayor Gallego, Councilman Garcia, I don't have a number regarding how many evictions we can see where the writ will issue and individuals would be evicted once the executive order expires. We do know that evictions continue to be filed, although the number of evictions that have been filed has been reduced. However, they are still being filed. What is happening under the executive order is that the writs are not being executed. So individuals who have an appropriate protection under the executive order or through the CARES Act are being protected from being put out of their homes at this point. So we expect that when the executive order expires, that we will see a big rise in the number of individuals who are then facing the writ being executed to have them removed from their homes. As far as how the process works, we anticipate that in this project, there will be attorneys at each of those justice courts that we have spoken about, and that those attorneys will then be able to assist any tenant that comes for a hearing. Usually we anticipate we will have about 20 individuals, 20 tenants per eviction hearing call that will need assistance, and that can run the gamut from providing information to speaking to them about their specific case and giving them legal advice on that specific case, negotiating with the landlord as appropriate, or actually providing representation to that individual in that court hearing. We would hope that and anticipate, based on our experience, that most of these situations will be able to be handled through negotiations, but every once in a while you have to go to court and actually have the hearing and have the judge decide.
Thank you. And one final question is, how does the relationship work with the courts? And I don't know if it's between us, between the city, and I know these are individual courts themselves in the county. Is there a difference between the courts themselves, meaning the different, they're not called jurisdictions, whatever. Is there a difference between them meaning will you all have kind of relationship or access to all of them at, in the same level? So does
Mayor
that work?
Gallego, Councilman Garcia,
Go ahead.
Mayor Waring, Councilman Garcia, we are asking the city of Phoenix to assist us in that endeavor, to work on those relationships so that we can find space in each of those in each of those justice courts to move forward with this project.
Is that something we could do? I don't know.
Mayor Gallego and Councilmember Garcia, yes, that is something we can do. We can reach out through either Chief Presiding Judge Don Taylor to help us facilitate a connection between the justice courts. I know they are all come under one, if you will, jurisdictional structure from a legal perspective, and we will rely and figure out how we create the partnership. We will immediately do that if this is approved by the mayor and council.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Franklin, I think I know many of the JPs who represent Phoenix, so if the mayor's office can be helpful, let me know.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We will next go to Jessica Berg, followed by Mary Lynn, our final speaker.
This is Jessica Berg. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Great. I'm the Chief Program Officer at St. Vincent de Paul. I talked to you all a couple weeks ago, actually, about your assistance with funding for emergency food that we've been providing to the community. And so today we're talking about some of the heat relief that we are providing and the needs in the community and in terms of what we do are really much greater this year because of COVID. And so we are, pivot is the word of the day every day right now. And we are having to pivot what we do. Usually we bring hundreds of individuals inside and make sure they have air conditioning and water and just access to not only comforts, but really life-saving situations. And so because we can't bring as many people inside, we're having to get creative. And within our 3 facilities within the city of Phoenix, we have shade structures and misting systems and outdoor swamp coolers. In addition to bringing people inside, we just can't bring as many people inside because of physical distancing requirements right now. So all of that also requires extra staffing, both folks who can help coordinate services and be there for support, as well as security staff. People are very stressed out and agitated, and we want to make sure everything stays safe. Excuse me. You know, we've been saying that the COVID virus may affect our population, but we know that the heat absolutely will affect our population. And folks die on the street every year with this heat. And so we are doing our best to be a safety net for the community. We're actually the largest St. Vincent de Paul in the world. And is that my timer?
You can finish the thought if you'd like.
Okay, so we're just so grateful to partner with the city on these outdoor cooling stations and structures, as well as providing food for the respite center at the convention center. And we appreciate all you're doing and are grateful for your consideration.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your longtime partnership and pivoting to meet our evolving needs as a community. I'm glad we can continue to support the great work you're doing. And for all of our providers, many providers are listening today. Please thank your staff on behalf of the City Council for all the work you have done to help our community get through ever increasing challenges, and certainly the same to our city staff who have been innovative and stepped up to growing challenges. Mary Lynn will be our final speaker of today's public session.
Mayor Gallegos, council members and city manager. My name is Mary Lynn Kasanick, and I'm President and CEO of the Area Agency on Aging. Since March 17th, when Governor Ducey issued the stay-at-home order, the Area Agency on Aging's 24-hour senior helpline has responded to almost 27,000 calls from seniors. This is like twice as much as we would normally get during this same time period. We've also had an increase of 47% in email requests. Two primary needs that have emerged. About 30% of the calls have been related to the fear of going shopping out at grocery stores and to pharmacies. About 30% of the callers expressed their increased feelings of isolation, loneliness, and anxiety related to being less connected, stay-at-home orders, less in-person activities, and lack of visits from families and friends. And so the area agency is proposing two new programs. One is called Goods to Home, and this will be a shopping program to help seniors with needed household supplies and pharmacy pickups. Staff will work with local delivery programs to supply seniors with bleaches, toilet paper, laundry detergent, hand soap, paper towels, Depends, and of course get their prescription. We propose to serve about 600 people. And the other one is Hi Neighbor, which is a telephone reassurance program that we use social workers to provide weekly supportive calls to seniors who need social connection. We will also, in talking to them, identify them and hook them up with other resources. We propose to serve about 2,000 people there. And we think these two programs will be a great help to older adults in the city of Phoenix. And we look forward to this opportunity to partner with the city to meet the more vulnerable population.
Wonderful. Thank you for all your service and your advice to our city. Would also note that many of our partners in this endeavor submitted written comments in support of the work we are doing together as well. With that, I will turn to members of the City Council for comments and a possible motion. Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor.
Go ahead. If somebody else wants to make a motion, I'll second it.
Well, go ahead, Councilman Nowakowski. I'll second.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion of staff's recommendation. I want to thank all the organization, all those partnerships that create what I call the Team Phoenix approach, and also Steve for being out there. Thank you.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments before we vote? Roll
Mayor,
call.
Mayor, I had a quick comment. Just
Okay, Councilmember Garcia.
with those numbers that were being thrown out, similar to the request on the senior centers, if we could, the respite center, if we could get some numbers of how many people are showing up, and what's capacity as well, and what we can do to promote it, or maybe some more transportation to make sure that we're fully using the space.
Mayor, members of the council, if I may, Councilman Garcia, I can get you more information, but we can tell you on a daily basis, we're serving about 60 people on an hourly basis. Now, some of those people kind of come and go, but we have about 60 every hour. Our high has been 92, and we've got capacity for 200.
That was impressive recall. Thank you.
Numbers stick in the head.
Yeah, it's good to have the numbers, folks, in the deputy city manager position. Any additional council member comments or questions before we vote?
Mayor, this is Councilwoman Pastor.
Well, please go ahead.
I just want to appreciate all the hard work that the staff has been doing since COVID-19 has hit. We have been more than a 24/7 operation, and how we're functioning or how everybody's functioning is on fumes, but we rose to the occasion, and I just want to say to everybody, I appreciate all your work.
Well said. Roll call.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Nowakowski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pastor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Stark,
Yes.
Councilman Waring,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams, Councilwoman Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Guardado,
You hear me?
Yes.
Mayor Gallego.
Yes.
And Mayor, that motion is approved unanimously.
Wonderful. By a unanimous vote, the City of Phoenix is investing and partnering to better serve our seniors, people experiencing homeless, so many of our most vulnerable, and those at risk of eviction. A great council meeting today. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Woohoo, Waring.